I never thought the day would come when my own children would forget I existed, the ones I carried, fed, and fought the world for. My birthday used to mean handmade cards, laughter, and love. But this year, not a single call, not even a text, just silence. I sat alone at the kitchen table where their tiny hands once smeared cake frosting, realizing that somewhere between growing up and chasing wealth, they'd left me behind. But I didn't break. I built myself back up brick by brick, pain by pain, until the day they saw me again. Not as the mother they forgot, but as the woman stepping out of a $125,000 Porsche. Their shocked faces said it all: regret, guilt, and a sudden memory that I was still their mother. The one they never should have ignored. Where are you watching from tonight? Because this story, it isn't just about betrayal. It's about the pain only a mother can feel when the children she gave everything to act like she doesn't exist. I used to believe that motherhood was a kind of forever, that love, once given, never fades. But I learned that even love can be forgotten when comfort takes its place. My name is Linda. I was a wife, a mother of 3, and for years, the heartbeat of a family that never stopped needing me, until they didn't. My husband, David, was a gentleman, the kind who worked with his hands and spoke with his eyes. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Every morning, I'd pack lunches, iron uniforms, and whisper little prayers over our children before they stepped out the door. I wanted them to have everything I didn't: stability, education, opportunity. And for a while, it felt like we were winning. The early years were a blur of birthday candles and bedtime stories. The house was always full of noise. Laughter, chaos, toys scattered everywhere. I used to dream of a little quiet, but now I'd give anything to hear that noise again. Because somewhere between soccer practices and teenage moods, I started fading from their world. David tried to reassure me. "They'll come around," he'd say. "They just need space." But I could see it, the distance growing inch by inch like a shadow swallowing the light. Our oldest, Ethan, became too busy with his career to visit. Claire, my only daughter, started treating me like a burden, rolling her eyes at every piece of advice. And the youngest, Ryan, barely spoke, unless he needed something. Then David got sick. It started small: fatigue, coughing, appointments that led to whispers and worry. I was terrified, but determined. I worked double shifts, cared for him through chemo, paid bills with the little savings we had. My children promised to help, but those promises came and went like the seasons. "I'm too busy, Mom. I'll visit next weekend." You understand, right? I understood too well. The day David passed away, it was raining. I remember standing by his hospital bed, holding his hand as his breathing slowed. His last words were soft, but they burned deep into me. "Don't let them forget who you are." After the funeral, my children stayed just long enough to look sad for photos. Then they left, each returning to their neatly curated lives. No time for grief, no space for their mother. I spent nights staring at old pictures, wondering where I went wrong. Weeks turned into months, no calls, no visits. My home, once so alive, became a museum of memories. I'd bake cookies, hoping someone might drop by. I'd leave the porch light on like a signal, a small beacon for the family that no longer needed me. On my birthday that year, I made myself a small cake, pink frosting, one candle. I sang softly, to myself, and when midnight passed, I realized they'd all forgotten. That moment changed me. Grief turned into determination. I stopped waiting for the phone to ring. I stopped expecting love from those who treated me like an afterthought. Instead, I began rebuilding my life, not as their mother, but as me. I took the insurance payout David left and started a small catering business from my kitchen. The same hands that once packed lunches now prepared meals for events, weddings, and corporate parties. I worked day and night, saved every penny, and slowly expanded. People began to know my name, Linda's Table. It became more than a business. It was my resurrection. Every time I delivered an order, I thought of David. Every contract I signed felt like defiance against the silence my children left behind. I didn't tell them about my success. Why would I? They never asked. And yet, deep down, I wondered, what would they think if they saw the woman they'd forgotten become someone the whole town respected? That question haunted me, and soon, it would be answered in a way none of us expected. Success didn't rush into my life. It crept in slowly, like a sunrise after a long night of rain. I didn't even realize I was rebuilding myself until one morning I looked around my kitchen and saw the counters full of ingredients, the phone ringing with new orders, and a small team of women smiling back at me, waiting for direction. It was strange. I had spent years being the one who served, who waited, who was always available. Now, people looked to me for leadership. At first, I felt guilty for feeling proud. It wasn't something mothers my age were taught to feel. Pride, ambition, those belong to the younger generation, the ones chasing dreams in cities and offices. But I had something none of them did, purpose born from pain. Every tray I carried, every event I catered, carried a piece of me. And somehow, people could taste it. They'd say, "Linda, your food feels like home." And I'd smile, hiding the ache in my chest because I knew home wasn't a place anymore. It was something I was building from the ashes of what my family left behind. In the first year, the business was small. Birthday parties, church events, neighborhood dinners. I'd stay up past midnight perfecting recipes, tasting sauces and writing quotes by hand, because I couldn't afford fancy designs. I worked quietly, methodically, letting the rhythm of work fill the spaces where loneliness once lived. I missed David more than words could explain. Sometimes, when the oven hummed late at night, I'd imagine him sitting by the counter, sipping tea, smiling that proud half-smile of his. "You're doing it, Linda," I'd whisper to myself. "You're really doing it." By the second year, things changed. My name started circulating. Linda's table. The woman whose food felt like love. Local businesses began calling. I got featured in a small magazine. Then, out of nowhere, I received a catering request for a high-profile corporate event downtown. The payment alone was more than what I used to make in 2 months. That night, as I packed trays into the van, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. Older, yes, but steadier, wiser. Someone who'd finally stopped waiting for anyone's approval. I didn't tell my children. I didn't even think to. They hadn't asked how I was in over a year. I'd stopped checking my phone on holidays. I'd stopped waiting for them to remember I existed. The silence between us was its own kind of death. Quiet, heavy, and permanent. One night, after another successful event, I sat outside the cafe with a cup of coffee, looking at the city lights flickering across the glass. It hit me then. I was truly alone, but I wasn't broken anymore. That realization was both painful and freeing. By the third year, my business had expanded into 2 full-time locations. I'd hired staff, trained new chefs, and built something stable. I invested in better equipment, upgraded my kitchen, and treated myself to small luxuries. A spa day, a new dress, little things I'd always denied myself. Then one afternoon, after meeting a supplier, I saw it. The car it was parked right outside a luxury dealership, a black Porsche, polished so perfectly it reflected the sky. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was impulse, maybe it was years of suppressing the desire to do something for me. I walked in. The salesman greeted me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, probably assuming I couldn't afford it, but when I signed the papers without hesitation, that same smile faltered. As I ran my hand along the hood, I thought about David. He would have laughed. "A Porsche, Linda. You sure you don't want to pick up?" I smiled to myself. He'd always known how to balance my seriousness with warmth. But I knew this wasn't about the car. It was about reclaiming my life, about letting myself be seen again. The first drive home felt surreal. The wind tangled my hair as I drove through the same streets I used to walk with grocery bags in my hands. I didn't care about the stairs. For the first time in years, I felt weightless, like I had finally outrun the sadness that had anchored me for so long. But peace never lasts long when the past comes knocking. A few weeks later, I pulled into the grocery store parking lot, humming softly when I heard someone call my name. Mum. I turned, and there was Claire, my only daughter. She looked different, older, sharper, her hair styled perfectly, her clothes immaculate. But her eyes were the same ones that used to light up when I braided her hair before school. For a moment, I thought she might hug me, but instead, she just stood there, stunned. Claire, I said, my voice steady. It's been a while. She smiled awkwardly. Wow, Mum, I didn't even know you were still around here. Still around here. The words stung more than I let show. I've been keeping busy, I replied, closing the car door gently. Her eyes darted to the Porsche logo, then back to me. Is this yours? It is, I said simply. That silence that followed was thick. I could see it in her face, the shock, the calculation, the curiosity. Wow, Mom, I had no idea you were doing so well. We should catch up sometime, she said, her voice suddenly softer, warmer, too warm. Sure, I replied. You know where to find me. When I drove off, I saw her reflection in the rearview mirror, watching the car disappear with an expression I couldn't quite name. 2 days later, Ethan called. Then Ryan. It was like they'd made some secret pact to suddenly remember their mother. My phone, which had been silent for years, started buzzing again. Hey Mom, just checking in, Mom. Been so long, we should do dinner soon. Hey Mom, you busy this weekend? For a brief moment, I wanted to believe it was genuine, that maybe they'd grown up, realized what they'd lost. But deep down, I knew better. They came over that Sunday, all 3 of them. I spent the morning cooking. Not because I had to, but because part of me still missed it. I made their favorites: roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, fresh rolls, apple pie. When they arrived, they brought flowers, wine, and smiles that felt rehearsed. Wow, Mom, Ethan said, walking around the living room. This place looks amazing. Claire nodded. Yeah, I didn't know you were living like this. It's really impressive. I laughed lightly. Thank you. I've been working hard. Ryan, the youngest, leaned against the counter. And that car outside, that's really yours. Every bit of it. They exchanged looks, trying to mask their surprise. For years, they'd assumed I was barely getting by. Seeing me successful didn't fit the version of me they'd built in their minds. Dinner went on with surface-level chatter, work, friends, plans. They spoke like strangers filling silence, not family rebuilding love. I listened, nodded, smiled when I needed to. I was polite, calm, detached. It wasn't bitterness, it was peace. I had finally accepted that the love I once begged for wasn't coming back. After dessert, Ethan cleared his throat. Mom, there's actually something we wanted to talk to you about. I knew it. He exchanged a glance with Claire before continuing. We've been thinking about starting a family business, something meaningful. With your experience, maybe you could invest a little. We could grow it together, Ryan chimed in. Yeah, and maybe you don't have to work so much anymore. You could let us handle the business side of things. I looked at them, my children, so grown yet so lost. They weren't here for me. They were here for what they thought I could give. I smiled faintly. That's a thoughtful idea, but I'm happy where I am. The business runs fine as it is. Claire frowned slightly. But Mom, managing finances at your age can be tricky. We just want to help. At my age, I set down my fork. When your father was sick, I managed hospital bills, medications, and debt. When he passed, I handled everything. The funeral, the mortgage, the business, alone. I think I'll be fine. The room went silent. I could feel their discomfort, their unspoken shame. But I didn't push it. I didn't need to. Instead, I stood and walked to the mantel, picking up a framed photo of David. His gentle smile stared back at me, calm, unwavering. "Your father taught me something before he died," I said softly. "He told me not to let anyone make me feel small again." I turned to them, and I haven't, not since the day he left. No one spoke after that. They made small talk, hugged me awkwardly at the door, and left soon after. The moment the door closed, I exhaled, not in sadness, but in relief. That night, I sat outside on the porch, looking at the stars. I thought about the years I spent waiting for their love, the birthdays forgotten, the silence that once crushed me. I thought about David, and how proud he would be that I'd finally chosen myself. I didn't buy the Porsche for them. I bought it as a reminder that even the quietest hearts can rise again. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. The way they looked at me, curious, calculating, told me they weren't done yet. They would come back. And when they did, they'd find a mother who no longer needed to be remembered, because she had already remembered who she was. It happened a few months after that dinner, the day everything finally came into the light. I had been invited to cater a luxury wedding at the Lakeside Hotel, one of the biggest events of my career. 1,000 guests, celebrity clientele, news coverage, the kind of event that put businesses on the map. I was proud, nervous, and grateful. Every dish carried a part of me. That morning, as my team prepared trays and decorations, I received a call from the hotel manager. "Mrs. Collins," he said, "we're thrilled to have you. By the way, your children dropped by to help with setup, said they're part of your management team." My stomach tightened. My management team? When I arrived, there they were, Ethan, Claire, and Ryan, dressed sharply, smiling for the cameras, telling everyone they were the masterminds behind Linda's table. For a moment, I just stood there, invisible in the chaos, watching, listening. "Our mother started it, but we handle all the operations now," Ethan was saying. "She likes to focus on the creative side. Lies, smooth and effortless." Claire was chatting with a journalist, gesturing proudly. "Yes, we're expanding into catering for corporate clients next quarter. It's been a family project from day one." A family project, the words burned. I walked up quietly, my heels clicking against the marble floor. They didn't notice me at first, too busy basking in attention. When I spoke, my voice was calm. I didn't realize I had a management team. Their heads snapped around. Ethan's smile faltered. Claire froze. Ryan muttered, "Mom, we were just..." "Just what?" I asked. "Borrowing my name, my work." People nearby started to notice. The journalist lowered her camera, sensing tension. My staff stopped what they were doing. The air turned still. Ethan forced a chuckle. "Mom, come on. It's good, Priya. Everyone loves a family story. We're just trying to help your image." "My image doesn't need your help," I said, my voice steady but sharp. "It needed your love years ago, but that was before you forgot who I was." The words cut through the room like glass. Claire stepped forward, her tone shifting to that careful, patronizing sweetness she used when she wanted something. "Mom, let's not do this here. We can talk later, please." "No," I said. "We'll talk now. Since you wanted the world to see us together, let's show them what family looks like." I turned to the small crowd, staff, guests, reporters, all staring in uneasy silence. "You see these children," I said, gesturing toward them. "They forgot me. They forgot my birthday, my grief, my struggles. When their father died, I buried him alone. When I built this business, I did it with no help, no visits, no calls. Now that they see the success, they remember their mother again." I looked straight at Ethan. "Tell them the truth. Who built Linda's table? Who paid the bills? Who stayed up nights cooking while you all went on vacations? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. You're ashamed, I asked softly. You should be. Not because I succeeded, but because you only see value in people when they shine. The room stayed frozen. The music dying down. The murmurs turning into whispers. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Mom, please stop. You're embarrassing us. I smiled sadly. Sweetheart, you embarrassed yourselves when you traded love for pride. And then I walked away. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply left them standing there, exposed in the spotlight they craved so much. The cameras caught it all. By evening, local blogs were already posting headlines. Catering queen confronts children for claiming credit. That night, I sat alone in my kitchen, sipping tea, watching the quiet unfold outside my window. My phone buzzed endlessly. Reporters, acquaintances, people praising my courage. But the only messages that mattered came from my children. Mom, we're sorry. Can we please talk? Mom, we didn't mean to hurt you. For the first time in years, I didn't answer. I didn't owe them silence anymore, but I didn't owe them comfort either. The next morning, I drove my Porsche to the lake. The same one David and I used to visit when life felt heavy. The water shimmered, calm and endless. I could almost hear his voice beside me. You did it, Linda. You didn't need revenge. You just needed to rise. He was right. A week later, I received a letter from Ethan, a real one, handwritten. He said he couldn't sleep since that night. That he realized how hollow their lives had become chasing validation. While I'd built something real, he asked for forgiveness. Not money. I read it twice, then folded it neatly into a box. The same box where I kept David's letters, old family photos, and the little birthday cards the kids made when they were young. Forgiveness, I realized, isn't a door you open for others. It's a window you open for yourself. They visited again weeks later, uninvited. This time, no fancy clothes, no fake smiles. Just my 3 children, standing on the porch, holding flowers like nervous strangers. Ethan spoke first. Mom, we don't deserve it, but we came to say sorry for everything. We miss you. Claire's voice cracked. We forgot who you were, Mom. We forgot what really matters. I didn't rush to hug them. I let the silence speak first. Then I looked at each of them, older, humbled, no longer pretending. I spent years waiting for you to remember me, I said softly. But I've learned that some lessons come too late. They nodded, tears spilling quietly. I forgive you, I said at last. But I can't give you back the years you threw away. That's something you'll have to live with. They broke down right there on the porch, the same place they once left without looking back. I didn't need to see their regret. I could feel it later that evening. As the sun set behind the hills, I stood beside the Porsche, the reflection of orange skies glinting off its surface. It wasn't a symbol of revenge anymore. It was a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it drives quietly down the same road you were once left behind on, and keeps going. It's strange how quiet victory can be. People imagine it sounds like applause, trophies, cameras flashing in your face, but it doesn't. Real victory sounds like peace. It feels like walking into your own home, looking around, and realizing you built every single part of it yourself. Months passed after that confrontation at the wedding. The scandal came and went, the headlines faded. But my name didn't. Linda's table became a symbol of resilience, of a woman who refused to disappear. Orders doubled. Interviews followed. I was invited to speak at business panels, charity galas, even women's conferences. They wanted to know how a widowed mother turned her pain into an empire. Every time I walked on stage, I thought of David. He would have stood in the crowd with that proud half-smile, the one that said, I always knew you could. I didn't talk about revenge in those speeches. I talked about rebirth, about how being forgotten doesn't mean being finished, about how the quiet ones, the mothers, the caretakers, the invisible hearts, carry more strength than the world ever gives them credit for. And yet, in the back of every speech, every success story, I could still see my children's faces the day they showed up on my porch, humbled, broken, finally seeing me for who I was. They visited often after that, this time, not with empty flattery or rehearsed warmth, but with effort. They'd show up with groceries, ask about my health, stay for dinner. The change was slow, uneven, and sometimes awkward, but it was real. One evening, as I was closing the cafe, Ethan came in, helping stack chairs. He looked older, tired in a way that had nothing to do with age. "Mom," he said quietly, "I wanted to thank you for giving us another chance." I didn't say anything right away. I just looked at him. My son, the boy who used to cling to my leg when he was scared of thunder, now standing before me as a man learning humility. "People make mistakes, Ethan," I said softly. "The important part is what they do after." He nodded, his eyes glassy. "We just want to make things right." And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. Claire began volunteering at the cafe on weekends, helping with events. Ryan started shadowing my accountant, learning how the business ran, not to take it but to understand it. I watched them rediscover compassion one act at a time. It didn't erase the past, but it healed something inside me that had been aching for years. Then, a year later, something unexpected happened. I received an invitation, the National Women in Business Awards. My staff had nominated me without telling me. When I opened the letter, I laughed and cried at the same time. I wasn't chasing recognition anymore, but maybe that's why it came. The night of the event, the grand ballroom shimmered with chandeliers and gold accents. I wore a simple black gown, nothing extravagant, just elegant. When I stepped onto the stage, the applause hit like a wave. The host read my name. "This year's award for entrepreneurial excellence goes to Linda Collins, founder of Linda's Table." I stood there under the lights, holding the award, scanning the crowd. My eyes found them, Ethan, Claire, and Ryan, sitting together, smiling through tears. For once, their pride wasn't about money or appearances, it was about me. I took a deep breath and began my speech. "I never planned to be here," I said. "I was just a mother trying to keep my family together, trying to survive after losing the man who believed in me. When my world went quiet, I thought it was the end. But I learned that silence isn't always a punishment. Sometimes it's an invitation to rebuild." I looked right at my children, and when the world forgets you, remember, you are still here, you still matter, you can rise without noise, and one day, even those who turned away will have no choice but to see you again. The room went still, and for a moment, I felt something shift, not just in them, but in me. When the event ended, my children came up, hugging me tightly. For the first time in decades, it felt like family raw, imperfect, but real. Later that night, as I drove home in my Porsche, city lights reflecting off the windshield, I realized I wasn't driving away from pain anymore. I was driving toward peace. When I parked outside my home, the air was still, the night sky scattered with stars. I stood by the car, feeling the cool wind brush my face. Somewhere in that silence, I could almost hear David's voice again, calm, proud, and smiling. "You did it, Linda. You turned the hurt into hope." I smiled through quiet tears. "We did it," I whispered back. Now, when people ask me what success feels like, I tell them the truth. It doesn't feel like money or cars or applause. It feels like walking past the pain that once defined you, knowing you don't need anyone to remember you anymore, because you've already remembered yourself. And for me, that's the sweetest revenge of all.